The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. Today is episode number 177, and today's date is Tuesday, January 26th of 2021. We are live as always on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you're out there in the live chat, go ahead and say something. We don't know you're out there unless you do say something. If you have a question or a comment throughout the chat that you want us to bring up, if it's relative to the conversation, or it could be a little fun. We like going down rabbit holes. But if you have a question or comment, make sure you tag myself or anyone else that's on the panel, and we'll try to get to those questions. If you can also call. Yes, you can call into the show. You can call or text them to the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends Rod and Shelly Gates at theguncleaners.com. That number is 530-364-4678. And if you are a veteran, really anybody, but especially a veteran that may be going through a tough time and you might need some help, first of all, feel free to call me or contact me, text me, email me, whatever, 24/7. I can't give you any medical advice, but I can sure as hell be a pretty decent listener and have a good conversation with you and maybe help you out a little bit. But if you're really looking for some medical help or somewhere to lead you in that right direction, understand this: you are not alone, and the world is much better off with you in it. So contact the Veteran Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. That number is down scrolling as well. And as always, we are going to spotlight the United States Marine Corps. If you're out there and you want some more information on what it takes to earn the title of United States Marine, visit the website www.marines.com. So we want to say welcome to everybody. Kind of got a fun thing that's happened. Been working on it for the last week or two, but as of this morning, we are now a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. And you see the banner up top, and it's a network of it's a really cool place. And we are now a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. It's a place where you can get all of your pro-gun, pro-freedom podcasts all in one place. So visit www.selfdefenseradio.net. Podcasts over there like Gun Freedom Radio with Cheryl Todd. You've got Eye on the Target with Amanda Suffolcool, the Polite Society podcast with Paul Lathrop, Armed Lutheran, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, the Locked and Loaded Latinos. I want to say that even Sandy with Sand Hill Shooters, the Get Off My Lawn podcast, is over on the network, and a bunch more. So if you guys are looking for a place where you can find a good mixture of good podcasts that are pro-gun, pro-freedom, go check out selfdefenseradio.net and all that. Let's say hello to our first panelist. We got a couple more that'll be joining here a little bit late, but the someone who probably needs to get on the Self-Defense Radio Network, our good friend, the host of the Right of the People podcast, and the founder, creative director, the face behind the curtain of Budget Guns and Gear Review. What's going on, Mike? How you doing, buddy? You're muted, by the way.
Oops.
I didn't want you to start talking and like, hey, you know.
Totally would have. No, I'm doing well today. Got some good news today. You know, it's mixed with some other stuff, but we're going to focus on the positive today. You know, I got some articles going to be coming out in a blog that I'm actually getting paid for. So sweet.
Are you able to tell people where to be maybe looking out for these down the line, or not yet?
I will as it gets closer, as it becomes
right up
a thing for sure. This
becomes reality.
Still in the planning stages right now, but yeah. So just something I've always wanted to do, you know, is kind of kick that off, and it would be great to do freelance writing stuff, full time, that would be awesome. But not sure that's quite in the cards yet. But hey, I'm one step closer to that, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, I've done some writing for some different publications, websites, not just in the firearms, but through my life, other things throughout the years, and it's fun. I like to write, and obviously I write for Gear Report now and all that. I've written some stuff for Ammo Land and concealed carry, different stuff, but I enjoy it. I don't know, honestly, God, this is just me. I don't know if I have the patience. Shall I say patience to be a full-time writer? For me, it's easier to turn on a camera and just talk than to. But let me ask you a question, because, and you'll be able to answer this. But do you talk differently than you write? Like when you read something, do you write? Is it a different? I mean, like what I'm saying, maybe the rhythm of your writing versus the rhythm of your talking, or do you find
It's
yourself
a little bit different? It's a little bit different, of course. Speak, for one, there's no and ahs in there.
Well, sure, yeah. Sure.
I am much more concise. I am much more clear. I do not have the fillers that I do with, like when I speak. Watch my videos, take a shot every time I say and man, you're gonna get hammered.
Yeah.
But I don't do that when I write.
Yeah, and I'm the same way, but I find myself concentrating more on proper grammar and all that. When I talk, I just talk. So,
I actually try to not be stilted and formal when I write. I try to be colloquial.
Sure.
And because it's more relatable.
Absolutely.
Try. I don't always succeed, but hey, the way I look at it is it's no different than doing a paper back in high school. You get your topic, you do your research, and then you write what you found out.
That's right.
To me, in school, that kind of stuff was easy. So somebody actually wants to pay me to do that.
Life is good.
Hell yeah.
Life is good. G23 says, thumb up the stream, y'all, or thumb it down. It all helps. Yeah, I don't care if you thumb it up or thumb it down. It's all engagement to me, and it helps the algorithm. So I'm going to go out there and say yes. If you feel so inclined, it doesn't take but a second to go down there and hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button. It does help the algorithms and help maybe get this out to more people. Who knows if it really works or not? I don't know, but we're gonna take it and say thumb up or thumb down. I don't care, but do something. Thank you. Our next panelist from the great state of Kansas, the host of Foul Territory and the founder creator of the Gizzard Gary channel. What's up, Gary?
Hey, not a whole lot. Thanks for having me, Ghost. Yeah,
man. Anytime. It's going to be a fun discussion tonight. We're going to get into it here in a little bit. And, we're going to kind of talk about some things that I got a text from Midnight Range. That dude's not all right. He's missing some screws in his head, but he's one of my favorites. And we've been texting a lot back and forth about some ideas, different things today. And that dude's got a few screws loose, but he's a good old boy. But yeah, tonight's going to be interesting podcast or show tonight because over the last week or so, since the inauguration, you hear people talking and talking about freedom and we're losing our freedom in America and all that. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I think that a lot of people, and this is just all over the place, they tend to get the words freedom and liberty and rights kind of intertwined, and they use them as the same, and they're not necessarily the same. So we're gonna have a discussion about that later on down the road. We got Clover to be coming here in a minute. I think he's cooking right now, but yeah, Travis says only a few. Thanks. I was being nice, man. I was being nice. He says you've got a lot more
real nice
loose. Yeah. So I went to get my brakes done today on the old vehicle, and speaking of Chef Boy, they had this little TV. It's got different stuff on there, and they had this Gordon Ramsay 10-minute meal, and it was like stir fried in 10 minutes. And I'm sitting there. I love watching food stuff. I'm not a good cook. I try. I'm learning. My wife's a phenomenal cook, but I like watching cooking stuff to get ideas. And I'm watching him, and I know he's been doing it for a long time, and I know that he's one of the greatest chefs in the world. But just watching really skilled people work their knives is pretty amazing sometimes. Watching them slice stuff, like I'd slice off half my fingers if I did it like they did, but it is what it is. But yeah, it was interesting. I don't know why that came. Oh, Travis. Yeah. So anyway, so what we're going to talk about tonight, guys, is rights versus liberty versus freedom. Are they the same? Are they different? Are there different ways to utilize those words? Because like I said, I went into Travis's chat Sunday night and had I would say how do I put this? I had a nice conversation with a couple people out there that are friends of the channel and all that. And I started out being devil's advocate, and just saying, look, and it kind of got a little heated at times, but I want to make sure that everyone knows out there that if you're watching that, understand that if we're going to use certain words, whether it's freedom, rights, liberty, and we're going to express ourselves, and whether losing them or we're gaining some or whatever, we need to be able to not only utilize those words correctly, but when someone challenges you, we need to be able to do it in a way that we can maintain control, we can maintain everything, stay calm, and have a conversation instead of jumping on the deep end and going personal attacks, because that is exactly where they want to take us. And so maybe we can learn about that tonight. So I'm going to start with Mike and say, 223 says, not going to have time to watch. Just want to say, hey, appreciate you, bro. John 12 gauge. John's been MIA for a while, but in the last week or two, he's been really, I guess, been coming back and all that. So it's good to see 12 gauge out there. And he says, it's interesting. This is the way I'll start this off. Leaving aside the philosophical treat. I'm not very smart. How do you say that, Gary? You're smarter than I am. Treatise. You're muted.
Treatises. I'm sorry.
Treatises. Is that a word?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. There you go. I'm not very smart.
It is
anyway,
the plural of treatise.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. I just hadn't heard that actual word being used. All right. Anyways, pardon me. It seems credible to me that freedom encompasses an arc for mental and physical independence. We're going to get to that one. That's a good way to start. So I am going to start off and say, Mike, with you, when you hear the word freedom, for you, what does the word freedom mean to you?
Well, you have to understand that I tend, whenever there's a disagreement on what something actually means, it depends on what the word is, right?
Sure.
Let's go to the dictionary. Let's start there as a baseline. And we can get with the connotations and everything else later. So I'm doing some looking on my other laptop here.
The Google through.
A quick Google search shows from Oxford Languages that freedom, noun, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Absence of subjection to foreign domination or despotic government. The state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Rights is defined from Oxford Languages again as noun, that which is morally correct, just, or honorable. A moral or legal entitlement to have or obtain something or to act in a certain way. As a verb, restore to a normal or upright position, to right something. Liberty, from the same source, Oxford Languages. Liberty, noun, the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. The power or scope to act as one pleases. So, right from the bat, just looking at the dictionary definitions, there is a difference between rights and freedom.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a difference between freedom and liberties?
They're awful similar.
They are.
They're
And
similar.
I'll go to where I think the three words here in a second. But yeah, they're very, very similar. And but do you see where there could be a reason why people kind of interchange those words without really kind of understanding there is a difference? It might be a slight difference, but there is a difference. So yeah, I want to bring Gary in and say, now that we've got the Oxford dictionaries, which I love, by the way. I love it. Right. No, it's great because it actually helped kind of, I think, my start with what we're going to talk about. But, when you first hear the words freedoms and liberty and all of that, especially when freedom's a big one. What do you think when you first hear the word freedom?
Freedom, the right for self-determination to live your life as you see fit, to, pick your course in life, what you're going to do for a living, where you're going to live, the different things you do for enjoyment and stuff like that. It's just freedom is the lack of restraint upon your creativity and your mind and your actions.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, exactly. For me, when I hear freedom, okay, freedom for me, now we have freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom of religion, and all that. Those are freedoms, but they're rights, okay, in the Bill of Rights. So let's not misconstrue the words freedom of speech as a freedom. It's a right in the U.S. Constitution for Americans. But when I think freedom, this is just me, and I might be way off, but this is how I've always looked at it. Freedom to me is a mental decision and a mental way of life. Your own personal inward freedom to live your life how you want to. Whatever it takes to make you happy, you have the freedom to live your life and make you happy. It's a mental decision that they might be able to take away my rights. They may be able to take my liberties away, but my freedom exists in here. I'm free as long as my mind believes that I'm free. That's just a mental state that I believe. Liberties to me are, and I like what the Oxford thing does say. Okay. I do like that. But liberty for me is like protections against like government interference almost. You know what I'm saying? They are freedoms, but they're not rights necessarily. They are saying that these freedoms are you're living the liberties of not having the government get involved in your day-to-day life. So yes, liberties and freedoms are basically the same, but I take it and say the freedom's more personal. It's personal freedom. Liberty's kind of more of a philosophical government staying the hell away from me and all that. Then you have the rights, and these are the actual entitlements, as you will, that the government, whatever government you have, allows, quote unquote, allows you to have. Real quick, gunfighter out there. That's my homie Kagan. 1999. He's a Marine as well. All super chats. We're not asking for super chats by any means, but all super chats, as always, are going to go to send care packages to our troops overseas. So thanks for the super chat, Gunfighter. I appreciate you very much. You wanted to say something, Mike? Go ahead.
Well, using the definitions from the start, I would say that liberty and freedom are what exists when one's rights are not being infringed upon.
Sure.
They're dependent upon each other. They are, the whole thing is a tripod, and it supports a free, quote unquote, society. If you don't have one of them, the whole thing falls. If you don't have your rights, you don't have liberty. If you don't have the liberty to exercise your, as you're calling it, your mental state of freedom based upon the rights that you inherently have, if your rights are being denied, everything falls. You cannot have one of those without the others.
Absolutely.
It's all interdependent.
Absolutely. Gary, don't have to raise your hand, bro. We've all been doing this a long time. Just spit it out. Go for it, bro.
To me, the word liberty presumes you came from a past where maybe you didn't have the freedom. and you are now able to enjoy that freedom. So you have been liberated from whatever restrictions maybe you had in the past or your ancestors had, or where you came from versus where you are now. So that's, to me, the difference is you came from a state where you weren't free and now you are.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Rob out there says, I usually wait a little bit to see how the show's going before I thumbs up. Who knows what, they might say Glocks are the best gun or something. So, no. But there's some really good ones out here. Let's see here. Go down here and see a couple comments, and I love this. I just lost. Okay, so Sandy starts it out by saying, to him, freedom equals I can do what I want. Liberty says I can do what I want within the bounds of the law. Yeah, and I think that's probably more of the liberty that you're describing. In my eyes, is more of rights within the law. But like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. This whole thing is going to be distinguishing between maybe some different words and maybe figuring out different ways to utilize these words instead of just lumping them all into one. Because I think that if we try, we can attack people that are trying to attack us with words that are similar, but we can use them from three different flanks by using freedoms and liberties and rights. And that's a way of arguing. Go ahead.
I would say that truly, since we're talking about freedom as a state of mind, a free person's liberty can be restricted, but a free person's rights cannot be restricted because rights are pre-existent and independent of government. Rights do not derive from government. Rights are a natural state. You naturally have the right to self-defense. You naturally have the right to believe what you want to believe. You naturally have the right to petition your government for redress of grievances. Now, you may not have the liberty to do so because that freedom has been infringed upon by a tyranny, but you always have the right. Rights are never bound by law. Your freedom can be, your liberty can be, but your rights never, because those always exist regardless of what the law says.
And I personally agree with what you're saying, but I'm going to take the devil's advocate road here and say, I'm going to flip that up and say, I think that your freedoms and liberties can never be taken away, but your rights can. Because I think that you're right. I think that your inalienable rights, quote unquote, and we use that word, in a Second Amendment especially, but your inalienable rights to self-preservation, to, question your government, all that, those are freedoms and liberties. But you may not, depending on the country that you live in, you may not have the right to utilize those liberties and freedoms in your country.
But they still have that right. I'll say they still have that right, but they don't have the liberty to exercise it.
And I would see, and that's great. I'm saying I would say they would have the freedom of that, but not the right. Because for me, like I said, this is just me. The rights are kind of the entitlements by your government, what your government and the laws of your land, wherever you live, says what you can and can't do. We all have natural freedoms and natural liberties, but we don't always have the right to do that. If you look at the Soviet Union, I think every human being has the right to worship or to practice whatever religion they want. But the Soviet Union did not allow their citizens to practice religion. So they didn't have
They had that right. They had that right. They did not have the liberty to exercise that right.
Okay.
We are really splitting hairs here.
No, exactly. But this is the conversation that's wonderful. Once again, because you're talking about words, but words can mean so many different things, and there's so many different things we use, and they could mean something that everybody else could use them as different things. And that's the great thing about it. And I'm not saying that I'm right, that you're wrong, or anything else is right. No. That's what this is about. Is let's kind of figure out what the words freedom, liberty, and rights mean to everybody, because maybe what one person thinks is one thing can be convinced by, let's say you might convince me that those are rights instead of liberties. or their rights instead of freedoms. That's awesome. That's what this is about. But I think there's a lot of people that go out there that really don't understand that there are very fine lines, but there are kind of distinctive lines on what they are. And that's what the whole thing was, is I've been listening to people say my freedoms are being taken from me. No, the right, you don't have the right to, they're using freedom as the word right. And they're saying, I'm having to pay probably more for my energy. You don't have the right to cheap energy. That's not a right.
No.
That's not a freedom. That's not a liberty. That's called free market.
But you can't lose your freedoms.
You can lose your freedoms. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, no matter how free a man is, if you live within a civilized society, there are rules that you have to live by, and you can't go killing people. You can't go taking things from other people. If you do, then you lose your freedom.
Yeah, there are certain freedoms / liberties, for argument's sake, that one will have to give up to live in a civilized society. And that's okay. If it's not okay with you, then I don't know where else to tell you to go. I mean, I really don't, but maybe America's not for you. There are certain things. And I tell people all the time, if you say that you're oppressed and you say that your rights and your liberties and your freedoms are being taken from you on a day-to-day basis, I suggest you go to somewhere in the Middle East or Africa and truly see what oppressed nations are. Go to Venezuela, go somewhere and see what true oppression really is. And then come back and tell me if we're still, really bad in your book. I'm just saying, most people who claim all that stuff may not have ever been anywhere in their lives. Just saying. Revolutionary hippies. This ought to be good. It says freedom is the right to choose from religion to sexuality or language as long as it hurts no one and causes harm to anyone in my book. Great point. Love Squibs right here. Yeah, Squib says without liberty you have no freedom. No doubt. And once again, so maybe it goes in like a pecking order, like rights, liberty, freedom. I don't know if you're looking at it, maybe possibly, but you're right. Without liberty, you have no freedom. I still say you have freedom on the decision that you make. How you cope with whatever liberties are being enforced on you or rights are being enforced or taken away from you. You have the freedom on choosing how you react to those. They cannot legislate what's in your head. They cannot tell you what to think about certain things. They can't do that. So you always will have freedoms, but that's more of an internal thing. So yeah. Let's see here. I'm going back. I'm way behind, so I apologize. I'm trying to catch up. Clover has entered the house. What's up, homie?
Hey, bro.
I'm going to try to catch you up, or bring you into this and say, we're talking about freedoms versus liberty versus rights. And when you hear those words, to you, is there a distinction between those three, or are they all about the same? Or what do you think when you hear liberty, freedom, and rights?
I think freedom comes from liberty, and rights has to do with how we practice said freedom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Freedom comes from liberty, and your rights have to do with the practice of said freedom. I've answered this question before. I was trying to remember exactly how I think about it in my mind, but yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah. And it's one of those things to where, well, Sandy says that makes a good point. Says your rights only extend to the point that they don't step on someone else's rights. I don't think that that's a right. Yes, but here's the thing: your liberties may not be able to step on other people's liberties, but rights. Everyone has the same right to freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean that you can go and say that's a different thing. Liberty, you have the right to freedom of speech. Let's just use freedom of speech. You have the right to freedom of speech. Underneath that is liberty. Liberty says I can say what I want without the government really getting involved. And unless I really do something and I can't speak out blasting somebody else. Freedom, to me, in this situation is I may not be able to say that I, call this person what I really want to call them, but I can sure as hell have the freedom to think it, and all that. So, and that's kind of an example of using speech. So that's how I look at it is freedom is more of an internal thing. I'm free as long as I believe I'm free, and I'm free to think and to have happiness and all that. Liberties are kind of, what you can do without the government getting involved, and the rights are the entitlements by your government. That's just how I look at them. No, I'm not saying they're right. Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a fourth component, which is responsibility. And I think that if you don't utilize your rights responsibly and they end up infringing on somebody else's rights, then we've got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's so many facets of this. And the whole point of this was I've been hearing since last Tuesday about different things. And the whole point, I'm trying to rehash this. Sorry, do a little step back for Clover. Is I keep hearing saying my freedoms are being taken from me. My liberties are being stripped and those, that, and the other. And I think that a lot of people are using liberty, freedom, and rights interchangeable, and they not necessarily are interchangeable. In certain instances, I think you could utilize that. But if we're going to be having conversations with people that don't agree with us, the last thing we want to do, especially if there's someone who will split hairs with words, and I think that the other side typically will split hairs with words. They've shown that they will in the past. Then we might want to make sure that we've got those points and all that. Because I think that if we utilize those three words differently, we have an argument that is, if you talk about the Second Amendment, we have certain freedoms with the Second Amendment. There are certain liberties with the Second Amendment, and there is a right with the Second Amendment. And you can attack someone with three different scenarios or three different reasonings with three different words. So what I'm saying is I don't like when people use these three words interchangeable. That's all I want to say about that. TPC says freedom of speech is just that. You are free to say what you want when you want and reap any consequences if said speech. Yes and no. Yes and no. Once again, technically, freedom of speech extends to being able to speak out against your government without the repercussions of them imprisoning you, putting you to death. Freedom of speech is really, if you want to get down really to the nitty-gritty, it's about speaking out against your government. It does not necessarily mean that you can call someone an SOB and cuss them out in their face. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It technically means you can speak out against your government without the fear of being persecuted because of those words.
Also means you ain't going to come in my house or my yard and say whatever you want to say either.
That's because I have the liberties and the freedoms to take care of that situation.
Yep. First Amendment protects you from the government.
That's correct.
Exactly.
That's correct. So yeah, and once again, TPC is one of the ones that I was having a discussion with the other night, and it was a great one. And I think that at one point it got to the point where we were not liking each other. And I wanted to make sure that he understands TPC. I meant what I was saying, but I did that not to get into an argument with you and other people that were in that chat. It was honestly for practice. If we can't have a discussion between ourselves without going personal and going nuts, then how are we expecting to have a conversation with someone who completely disagrees with everything that we believe in? So that's what the whole thing is. And I like pissing people off. I like going into chats and throwing stuff out. Hell, I've been on podcasts for an hour and a half at a time playing devil's advocate without the host even knowing that I was playing devil's advocate. I mean, I think several of you were on that chat with Rich a couple of years ago, and he was furious with me. And I was like, dude, I think Clover knew, but he was probably the only one on the panel that night that knew that I was playing devil's advocate. But that's the whole thing. Is it is what it is. The freedom of speech is a right endowed by a creator, not the government. Once again, we can agree to disagree. Rights come from where you live. Okay. Liberties and freedoms come from natural. That in my opinion, and I know Mike disagrees with that, but that's where I fall. And I'm not saying that I'm right, but that's where we're going to have maybe some, go ahead, Mike. I mean, go for it. This is a great discussion. I love it. I love the discussion.
We've already covered this ground. Rights are pre-existing. They don't depend on the government or law. Liberties, on the other hand, do. You have the right to defend yourself, period. I don't care if you live in America. I don't care if you live in Bangladesh. Despite what they think, I don't care if you live in England or New Zealand or Australia or wherever. You have the absolute right to defend yourself. Now, the government may have restricted your liberty and may have infringed upon that right. That's the thing. Liberties, you exist in a state of liberty and freedom when your rights have not been infringed. You have that right. The law may have restricted your liberty, may have caused you to cease to exist in a state of freedom. The right is there because it doesn't depend on government. Has nothing to do with government.
You know that. Go ahead.
And it has nothing to do with government, and it has everything to do with a natural pre-existing state. Whether you choose to believe that it's endowed by your creator, whether you choose to believe that when the Big Bang happened, all these rights sprang into existence as soon as you crawled up out of the primordial ooze, it doesn't matter. It exists. Government has nothing to do with it. The only thing government does is restricts rights by infringing on them and decreasing your liberty. Government doesn't give you anything because that which is given can be taken.
I understand, and that's my whole point of what you just said right there is the rights for me, and we can whatever, the rights are like legal moral stuff entitled to by the government. And I don't think these include like the natural rights. I think when you talk about rights, I specifically think of rights as the rights that you have as a citizen of said country. Liberties and freedom. Hey, I can live in the most restrictive place in the world, but I'm still free in my mind. You know, I have the freedoms. I have those freedoms to and the liberties to defend myself. It may not have that right given to by my government.
But that's because you automatically inherently recognize that you have the right to do so.
No, I understand that.
It is your freedom and your liberty that has been infringed. You have that right. You don't have the freedom.
I tend to agree that we have these natural rights. But when I'm saying when we're talking about a politico discussion, the word rights to me come down to the entitlement set forth to the citizens by that said government. So, like I said, that's where
we disagree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do not believe from the government at all.
Yeah, no, I can read.
For instance, our Constitution, when we talk about the Bill of Rights, do they grant us anything?
What's that?
Does the Constitution grant us anything? Or
it enforces different things.
Does the Constitution restrict what government can do? Because that
it protects natural. Yeah, I mean it does. Our Constitution was written to restrict the reach of government.
Correct.
Initially, absolutely. It doesn't grant you. It protects certain maybe liberties and freedoms in your life, but it's just written in words saying that we're going to acknowledge that you have the freedom of these things, and we're going to acknowledge and say, hey, we're good with that. We want you to do that. But once again, we're talking about rights, and this is just me. When I think of rights, I think of the right to vote, the right to own property, the right, all that, the rights. These are in our country, even let's say 1975. A black man had the right to vote. A woman had the right to vote. That not necessarily wasn't the truth in South Africa. A black man didn't have the right to vote during apartheid in South Africa.
But voting isn't a natural thing. Voting.
That's what I'm saying.
Here's going to be a controversial statement. Voting isn't a right. It's a privilege.
No, I understand that. But you have the right to vote if you're a person of 18 years or older in America. It's a privilege, but the right, it's in that Constitution. So once again, that's where I take rights is a legal entitlement given to you by your government. Once again, no matter what the Bill of Rights say, I can be free and I can have all the liberties in the world. I may not have the right to do that, but I'm free to do whatever I want to, whether I'm willing to take the consequences of that. May not have the right, but I'm free to do whatever I want, no matter where you live. It just depends on
there is that.
legal term.
I agree with you on the freedom. I agree with you on freedom.
Yeah.
You're free to do whatever you want.
Right.
There's a saying, and take what you want and pay for it. You're free to do whatever you want, accept the consequences of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great one right here. And you can always go back to this. And this is, we'll get into this in a second. Ben Franklin, Stephen Elder says, those who give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Ben Franklin. It's just funny. And we've all talked about this. We probably talked about this together. It's amazing to me. And what people tend to forget is in the 1770s, and I'm going to say the men because unfortunately they were the ones that the signatures on there. I'm sure there were women involved and all that, but the men, our founding fathers, people tend to forget that in my eyes, that the Constitution of the United States is still to this day the greatest document ever written in the history of the world. It outlines freedom for the rest of the world. The Constitution makes us the beacon of freedom, not who we are or how we live. The Constitution is. Nothing had ever been written like the Constitution of the United States until then. But here's the thing. Most of the people who wrote not only the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, but also the Declaration, most of the same people were like anywhere from 25 to 35 years old. Think about that. Ben Franklin was in his 60s or late 50s, early 60s. He was ancient because life expectancy wasn't much more than 40 or 50 years old. So just think that Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, John Adams, all these people were like 25 to 35 years old and created this idea and this movement in this document that has changed the world. My daughter is 23 years old, getting ready to be 24 in a few months. There is no way in hell that I could picture my daughter being involved with writing the Constitution. They haven't lived. But then again, you look at that and say, they were 25, 26, 27 years old, but they had probably been working since they were probably 10, and all that. And they were married when they were 16, or something like that. So life was different. But just the ages, it's fascinating to know that there was 27-year-olds out there that wrote this amazing document. And I've gotten this with Clover or not. And I want to kind of throw this in here. Speaking of the Constitution, all that. And I'm going to start with Gary. And for you, when you hear the word Constitution, do you think it's a living document?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a living document. Because we have the right and the machinery to adapt it to the current world if need be, and we have many times. That's why we have amendments.
Absolutely. Right. Go for it.
Because I'm glad you said that word, because I've been cringing in there every time I hear the phrase living document, because some people think that means something else.
Yes, it does.
Are you
talking about the word adapt? Is that the word you're talking about? Adapt?
No, living document, that phrase.
Oh, just the phrase. Okay, gotcha.
Living document, and we can adapt the Constitution, means that it means whatever we want it to mean right now, not what it says, instead of the fact that it is a living document in the sense that the founders built in a mechanism by which we can change it, the amendment process, by having a constitutional convention and proposing constitutional amendments, having them voted on and ratified. That's how you do it. Not, I think it actually says this, so that's what we're going to say.
What are those?
That is
butter cookies.
I'm sorry?
You make them with my peanut butter?
I'm going to beat Clover. Yeah, I think he's having a conversation with Arminthia about cookies. Cookies do sound good. I'm not going to lie. No, and I think you're right. I'm going to bring Clover in here in just a second. That's why I brought up the word living document, because once again, we're talking about splitting hairs and words meaning something different to different people. To me, the Constitution is not a living document in which it can be adapted to whatever. The ideas that were set forth in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in the 1770s are not, you cannot adapt. Those are there. And if you look at them, they built in things. They were so good. They wrote this in the 1770s, and it is still valid and it is still relevant today. It's like almost like they could sit there and say, hey, 250 years from now, this might be an issue or something. So we're going to have these. So yes, I do not think that it is a living document when it comes to the adaptability and just being able to translate into modern whatever. I do believe it's a living document, which they want it to be, like you said, Mike, is it can be changed, but there is a process. And it's not just, you can just, hey, we're going to do this and do this. No. You have to go a specific route, taking specific measures. And if anything is wrong with how you do that, no, it's not going to happen. So it is one of those where I agree with the idea of the living document as far as being adaptable by being changed, not being adaptable to understanding what this should mean or what it means in my, what I think it means in today's language. Because the word militia in the Second Amendment today means something different than it did back then. The word militia in 1776 meant the citizenship. So when you hear a regulated militia, it doesn't mean this organized army. The militia literally meant the citizens. Now it means something different. So yeah, Clover, I don't know if you're back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We heard a conversation with you and Armintia. That's why I muted you. But someone go to you, and I don't know if you heard it or not. But when you hear the word living document when it refers to the Constitution, I think you and I had this discussion a long time ago. But do you think that the Constitution is a living document?
Not in the sense that people seem to think of it is. They seem to think that it's malleable and fluid, and you can interchange words for modern meaning, and it's not. I mean, you have to. I'm an originalist in a way, in that sense. So, and I'm the same way, even if I'm reading the Bible, for example, right? You look at the times, and I think that's the problem that we face is ignorance a lot of times. And so people can't envision that, let's take the Second Amendment. Oh, they couldn't possibly have all of these. Really? Because private citizens had warships back in the day. So that would be like having a fighter jet or an aircraft carrier or a battleship nowadays, right? Which is unfathomable to think that, a private citizen could have a battleship, Nimitz class, whatever, it's just unthinkable to think that, but people did back then, right? Go back even further in history and look at, different societies. I mean, okay, you want to talk about the Constitution and it being the greatest founding document of all time, agreed with that and everything, but go back and look at even other societies and a lot of the things that in their writings, if you don't take it in the original context, it can mean all kinds of wild and crazy things.
Well, I'm on the record saying this, and most people kind of freak out because they hear a few words. They say, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to preface this by saying, on paper, folks, on paper, the greatest form and idea of government ever created by man is communism. The idea on paper. Problem is, it just doesn't work. Okay, it does not work as a government, but on paper, it's a beautiful form. It's a
doesn't work because of people. Doesn't work because of people.
Right. That's exactly right. Greed and the natural way of bettering one's life, it will never allow that to work. And by the way, I'm gonna go with what Gary says. Are you sharing? Just saying. The cookies, by the way. But yeah, that's the idea of communism is wonderful, but it never will work. It never will work. I had another thought process, but I lost it. I have no idea. Oh, so I was watching Locked and Loaded Latinos last night, and they were talking about different things, and they were talking about the Second Amendment and all that. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember them thinking, I was like, understand that. It was Fit and Fire. I was watching Mark last night. And they were talking about the Second Amendment. He had a guy from Australia on, and it was really fascinating because this guy loves America and would love to move to America, but all that, loves the idea of who we are as a country, and not from the outside, not really knowing that how fractured we are right now, but the outside, we are still the beacon of hope in the world. And talking about the Second Amendment, and I made a comment. I said, the interesting thing is people talk about another revolution. We're gonna rise up against our government, take back our rights, and it's like it won't happen. We'll lose. Because they have the Air Force. I mean, let's just be real. As much as I make fun of the Air Force, when it comes down to war, the Air Force is unbelievable because they could destroy so many different things from 30,000 feet in the air, and a lot of them now don't even have troops or men or women in them. There is no risk of human loss, and it's hard to beat the Air Force. Now, understanding that is kind of interesting going back to the Second Amendment. One thing that people tend to forget is back in the 1700s, when the Second Amendment and the Revolutionary War happened, at the time, the citizens typically had better weaponry than the actual military. That is not the case now. We've lost the ability to have the same weaponry that the military does throughout time. But back then, most citizens had better rifles than the military did at that time. That's why they were saying, hey, join the military, bring your rifle, because one of those things is they were probably better than what they were going to give you at the time. Go ahead.
Oh, the American Revolution completely changed the landscape of warfare. Completely. Was having this conversation with my dad the other day, and I forgot now exactly what the context of it was, but it had to do with, warfare up until that point was fought on a battlefield in lines, in doing volleys with mainly smoothbore rifles, not accurate at all. And so for many, many years, you had the colonies, and what did they have to do? I mean, they had to hunt to survive, and they needed to be able to sling one little piece of lead many, many hundreds of yards potentially and bring home meat, period.
To live. Yes.
Exactly. So not only did you have the advancement in armament, in firearms, I guess what you would consider firearms at the time, certainly arms, right? Not only did you have the advancement in arms to make that more efficient and everything else, but you had the proficiency level was through the roof with it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quick, I want to go back to that, but mandatory carry says Air Force cannot take territory. Technically you're right, but they can bomb the hell out of a territory to where no one's going to be there anymore until someone on the ground does come and claim it. They can wipe out territory very easily. Go ahead.
That's pretty much what I responded with, because I said, yeah, you're right, but they can sure lay it waste.
Yep, I didn't see that until now, because I had stopped it to where I make sure I didn't lose that. But yeah, exactly. All right, so we got a couple texts. Bring this up real quick, and do you believe our U.S. This is from I think it's Warsaw Patriot says. Question: do you believe our U.S. Constitution protects and prevents our own government from becoming tyrannical, like other governments have over history? Each government I've seen in every country I've looked into is a bit different system. Even countries like Poland, the Czech Republic have adopted pro-Second Amendments like the U.S. in their constitutions. The whole world loves America and its freedoms. So I'm going to go back to you this one. We're going to run this through the panel. The question is, do you believe that our U.S. Constitution protects and prevents our own government from becoming tyrannical? Yes and no. I think that it lays the plan out that says we're going to restrict the government from becoming tyrannical, but we're also going to place some different things that can happen if they choose to go away. Because here's the thing, a tyrannical government at that point does not go along and coincide with what the official laws of the land are. That's why they're tyrannical. They've decided to disregard the laws of the land. Okay, so our Constitution does set forth the protection against tyranny from the government, and then what the citizenship can do. And that's why the Second Amendment is important, is we have to be able to defend ourselves from someone to become tyrannical. And I know that we're a young country when it comes to the realization of 240, 3 years or whatever, 245, 244. I get that. But understand this is, if the Constitution wasn't written the way it was, in those first 200 years, it's still a volatile country. It's still right there on the edge. Anything can happen. It hasn't solidified itself. And yet there hasn't been the tyrannical overtake of the government over its people. And that, why? Because the people have a way to fight back. So I do believe the U.S. Constitution set forth does protect us from tyrannical governments. Tyrannical governments are just like criminals, okay? Criminals don't care what the laws are on the books. They don't care. Tyrannical governments don't care what the laws are. The difference in America in that is we have a way to protect ourselves from that if it ever does happen. I want to start with Clover on this. Do you believe that our Constitution protects and prevents our own government from becoming tyrannical?
Protects, maybe a little bit. Prevents, absolutely 100% unequivocally no.
Okay.
Because that's like saying, well, the Ten Commandments prevents murder. Well, how many people got murdered today? So obviously that's not true. A piece of paper with words on it does not prevent crappy humans from doing crappy things. We're talking prevent, right?
Yep.
Now the protect, sure. It's meant to be a protection, and it's meant to lay out a set of rules for the people. One of which is the government does not have the ability, unless, of course, they become tyrannical, to disarm us. Therefore, we have the ability to, squash any tyrannical government that might try to rise, right?
That's correct.
But I think when we start going down that road, I think that we've got people out there that want to jump from A to somewhere way, way late in the alphabet. I'm thinking maybe RSTU, somewhere like that, with the whole tyrannical thing, and say, because the government has done this, this, and this, oh, well, now they're tyrannical. Our government is far from tyrannical, even at this point, as much disdain and dislike as people show toward it. I understand your sentiment, but it's far from tyrannical. Turn on some world news if you don't believe what I'm saying.
That was the whole point of this discussion. We talked about this before, is if you think that we've got it bad here, please, please, please go volunteer with the Peace Corps or someone and go overseas for a year or two and see what true oppression is in this world. And then come back and say, if you still think America's terrible, hey, then we'll have a discussion about that. And I'll probably agree, because you might be able to convince me. I don't believe that. Gary, anything on adding or changing your mind about what the U.S. does to protect us from a tyrannical government, or those are the words that were being used? Yeah.
Well, in the first place, I want to make the statement that we still live in the greatest country in the world. There's no doubt about that. I mean, when our forefathers designed the way this country works, I mean, you've got your three branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. So they balance each other out, or at least in theory they do. If they don't, and the government becomes tyrannical, then we've got many redresses. We have the First Amendment. We can speak up and say, this is wrong. We need to change it. We need to stop it. If it becomes too oppressive, we've got the Second Amendment to make changes. And we've also got our power at the voting booth and everything else. So we're not without power at all. So that's how we make changes. We've been making changes for over 200 years in this country. We will continue to. adapt the government to what suits us and to exercise what we want, our vision of the way America should be. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Yeah. And someone out there says that government has corruption. Hello. That's not a surprise. Government in general is going to, no matter where you are in this world, at the county level, all the way up to the leader of the free world, it's going to be corruption. Okay. But here's the thing. There's only as much corruption as we as a citizenship allow. Ultimately, it's on us. You might be able to vote a certain way, but if the majority vote another way and there's corruption because of that, that as a people, as a citizenship of this country, we as a whole have allowed certain things to happen. It's just reality. There's going to be corruption anytime you give anyone power of any kind. Power equals corruption. That's just a natural way of life. Sorry. Mike, bringing it to you. Constitution when it comes to tyrannical governments, does it protect us? What are your thoughts on that?
The Constitution, well, in its physical aspect, is just a piece of parchment with some ink on it. That's not going to do squat.
Technically, you are correct, sir. Yes.
What?
The idea of the Constitution
is the ideas that the Constitution sets out.
Yep.
It's those ideas and the people's belief in, love for, and adherence to it. That's the protection. It's us. It's we, the people. It's the people. It's the people. It's the people. As is said, how many times in the Constitution do you hear the phrase "the people"?
People, a lot.
There's a reason for it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
People, we are the protectors of our liberties. We are the protectors of our freedom. We are the guarantors of our rights. Nobody else. Us. We. That's why it's those first 10, particularly the first 2, First Amendment, freedom to say what you want, and the Second Amendment, the ability to defend yourself against anyone who would prevent you from exercising the first. That's why they're there. That's right. So that you can protect your liberty and your freedom and your rights.
Absolutely. Great statement. That's a great way to transition real quick. And I do want to, before we're going to take about a minute and let us get a drink of water and all that. We're going to bring a little presentation from Self-Defense Radio Network. So here we go. The Armed Citizen Podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great pro-gun and pro-freedom content at selfdefenseradio.net. Some of the shows that are featured on the network: the Polite Society Podcast, hosted by Paul Lathrop; Gun Freedom Radio, hosted by Cheryl and Danny Todd; Armed Lutheran Radio, hosted by Lloyd Bailey; Eye on the Target Radio, hosted by Amanda Suffolk and Rob Campbell; The Locked and Loaded Latinos, hosted by Ro and Joe; Riding Shotgun with Charlie, hosted by Charlie Cook, and many, many other great podcasts. Once again, check out all the great pro-gun and pro-freedom content on selfdefenseradio.net. All right. So, yeah, great time to do that. Thanks for everyone that's watching. We've had a good conversation. We're not done yet, but I thought that was a pretty decent time to do that. Go visit the snack bar. As Gary said, yes, steaming the hot dogs, delicious popcorn, mouth-watering chili dillies. And you're out there, get yourself like a dill pickle. I'm all for dill pickles. I don't know if you guys like them or not, but have you ever had taken the you are muted, I think, Mike, but have you ever had at least I didn't hear you say anything, but you taken the pickle juice and frozen it in like a pickle juice popsicle? Oh my God, those are awesome. Go ahead. I heard you say something. Go ahead.
That dill pickles are the best pickles.
They are the best pickles. And I was at a basketball game about 10 years ago. My daughter was playing or something. We were at another small town. And they said, you want a pickle popsicle. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And they had taken like those little small things you put like cheese for your pretzels or something, and they had poured pickle juice in there and put them in the freezer, and they were selling for like $0.25. And it was just the pickle juice, and I like popsicles and I like dill pickles, so it was pretty perfect.
One of the best things in the world. I used to do medieval reenactment as a hobby, and every August in Pennsylvania, we would go to this gigantic event, and there was a huge war, and we'd be in the sun all day fighting, sun bearing down while you're wearing armor and all this other shit. And one of the greatest things in the world is a piece of frozen dill pickle. When you're hot and thirsty, oh man, it's so awesome. Frozen dill pickles are great. So yes, when you talk about pickle juice pops, yeah. Oh yeah.
Was it Quitman or was and Lance is out there off the X? Was it Quitman? It was either Quitman or Clinton. I think it was Clinton was the first time I saw it, and they probably have them at Quitman now, but I want to say the first time I saw it was in Clinton. But yeah, I'd say another one though that is really good frozen, especially if you're gonna be outside. We used to do this with my daughter's travel softball. We'd have coolers and all that. Frozen grapes are awesome as well, especially the seedless grapes. You just pop them in, and they're frozen grapes are phenomenal. Love them. Okay, I'm gonna go through, and I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. We're going to take a little time to talk a little bit about other things, but I want to kind of make sure that I didn't miss anything that I really needed to out there. Let's see here. It doesn't look like. Remember, at the top of the hour at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, go check out our buddy Sandhill Shooter. It's the Get Off My Lawn podcast and all that. Warsaw says, thanks for answering my question. Not a problem. So we're just going to talk about. I don't have a problem answering questions as long as they are going along with what the topic that we're talking about. Now, once we get into this section of it where we kind of go down rabbit holes and all of that stuff, then we can answer some off the wall questions. So if you have any questions out there that you want anyone on the panel to answer or whatever, feel free to put those questions out there. But yeah, when we're talking about that specific topic, I try to keep it on topic. We can go through rabbit holes on our own. We sure as hell don't need help from other people to send us down those rabbit holes for sure. So one thing I want to talk about is, since SHOT Show was last week, the virtual SHOT Show and all that stuff, and there were a lot of press releases and all that. Was there anything that came out of press releases or from the companies? I'll start with Gary on this one. Anything that you saw that might be released here in 2021 that you're looking forward to seeing now that kind of they release some of the stuff, the information about it?
Well, I'm kind of an oddball, as most people know, but there's a revolver called a Barkeep that kind of looks neat that I'd like to take a look at. Also, I believe Taurus has a new model, the TX22, a competition model.
Competition, yeah.
Looks really neat. So those two things got my eye for sure. I'm sure other people saw other things, but that's what caught my eye.
Yeah. Mike, what about you? Anything that kind of popped out and said, ooh, can't wait for that to come out, or I didn't know that was coming?
The Kel-Tec 5.7 pistol that uses the P90 mags. That thing just looks interesting to me. Whether it works worth a doggone or not, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
It looks, I would love to try it. I would love to have one. I'd love to figure out how to stick a pistol brace on it, or just a stock and turn it into an SBR. I think that would be awesome.
Absolutely. Clover, what about you? Anything that came out from last week that you're excited about or not excited about? Like, I'm not even going to think about looking at that.
Don't know if it come out last week or not, but that Gerson 1911 long slide 10 millimeter.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that. I hadn't seen. Yeah. Now did Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade just join us?
I know. Fresh fried taters and sweet taters.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that got me really excited. That being said, I know that a lot of them were not going to release any of their new items. They're probably going to maybe wait for the USCCA or for NRAM later on. Who knows? I still think a lot of companies are trying to get somewhat settled from what the hell's going on with last year. Let me ask you guys a question, because there's a firearm company that I might have an opportunity working with, and it is a gun that I had never heard of. Have you guys ever heard of FMK?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of
Yeah.
I had never heard of them. And I got an opportunity that I think maybe to work with them. They've got a handgun. It's kind of on the tourist, like that $259 to $300 price range, that apparently is getting pretty decent reviews. But they've also got, excuse me, good Lord. They've also got an elite level gun that's more like $600 to $700, but they've got a model that came out. It's the USMC Bulldog model. And so I'm working on maybe getting one of those, but I had never heard of FMK, and all of a sudden this opportunity maybe came up, and I had to go on their website because I had never heard of them. What do you guys have you heard anything good or bad, or is it just kind of one of those, good $200 to $300 guns? I don't know much about them.
It's one of those that you don't see a lot of people messing with. You don't see a lot of traction with it. I've shot a few. I've seen a few through gun shops here and there, and they're real Glockish.
Okay.
So
I haven't had a chance to play with any yet.
Yeah, they do a little Glockish and all that. Just looking at pictures and all of that, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's not necessarily a new firearm, but it's new to me because I was not really aware of who they were and all of that. And like I said, it'll be interesting because if I do end up getting one of those, and then when the Taurus comes in, that'll be an interesting maybe comparison, because they're both going to be 9mm, that mid-size to full size, 14, 15 round capacity for that $250 to $300 price range. That could be really an interesting comparison. So I'm interested to see that, because I'm always looking for something that is going to be a good value, because there are a lot of people that aren't going to be out there. They're going to be able to afford a $500 gun, because once you start getting that $500 gun and you start taking the taxes and ammo, if they've got it, plus if you have to do the 4473 and pay for that, who knows, that $500 gun becomes a $600 gun. If you can get them for $250 to $300, then you're still under that $500 budget with all of the taxes, the paperwork, and ammo, maybe. So it's interesting. I'm looking forward to that, but I never heard of them, so I just want to get you guys' opinion on, or if you've ever heard of them or not, because I hadn't. Now, people out there ask me, that's a man bun. That is not a man bun. I forgot that I had it still up. I put it up because I was doing something. That's just me putting in a ponytail. But it is not a man bun. I literally put it up because it was falling. My hair, Budget saw my hair pre-show last week. It's the longest my hair has ever been. I usually keep my hair short. People know that. It's down like below my nose, but I shave the sides. It's just long, and I like it.
About to clock in with the coyote.
I know, but I like it long as it's, but I have to get used to, sometimes it gets down and it feels weird. So at times I'm doing something, I'll just put it up here. I totally forgot that I had it up.
I thought
it's not a man bun. It's my alfalfa,
I thought you were auditioning for Mulan on Ice or something.
No, this is I was actually auditioning. I've got so many projects going. I've got the Air Supply Air Band that I'm working on. But I had an opportunity to audition for an American version of the middle-aged Korean boy band. So that's it. It is what it is now. G23 says, call it what you want. It's a man bun. Whatever. It is what it is. Squiblo says that it's unsat. Get a haircut, dude. This is the longest by far my hair has ever been. But it started last year with the COVID stuff, and
look like a freaking Cupid doll.
It's what it is. My wife calls it a troll, like the the troll things you put on the pencils when we were kids, and the hair would all go crazy. She says he looks like a damn troll. It is what it is, but. Trey says, "Oh Christ, Ghost is wearing a man bun. If I didn't respect him so much, I'd ask if it's handle for his man friend."
My goodness,
it is what it is. Like I said, I don't care. I don't care. But I have enjoyed having the long hair. Like I said, it's been a really weird thing for me to have really long hair. But
Ricardo said
I haven't had a haircut as far as the actual top. I haven't had one in over a year, so it's kind of crazy. What were we saying?
I like what Ricardo said.
Yeah, I did too. And he says, Ghost, you have the freedom to make you have the freedom to make this to your hair. I have the right to laugh at you. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Warsaw says, might as well be American Samurai Jack. Because the samurais do have it kind of in the middle. So if I was to do like a man bun right in the middle, I guess that would be kind of the samurai thing, but I'm not a samurai. It is what it is. You better have a samurai sword back there somewhere. I've got a katana, but it's just a smaller one. I'm looking for a full-size katana that's not one of those ones you can get for $50 at Wanamaker. If you've been to Wanamaker, Gary's been there, Clover, you can go buy a katana for $50 at Wanamaker. Now it's really bad and it's not real. I wouldn't use it to defend my life in any way. But I would love to have a katana. I mean, and I know that if I was to go and get someone to actually forge me one and do it the right way, it's going to cost thousands of dollars. But the
cold steel stuff is not bad. For the money, but that's about the cheapest that you could possibly get away with. For something,
says, brother, it's a man bun. Just own it. I'll own it. Like I said, I don't really care. And yes, the samurais are called a top knot, but explaining it, it's basically a man bun on top. But yeah, Steven says a man bun is okay. Just draw the line of start the fanny pack carrying. What's wrong with the fanny pack? Yeah, no. Fanny packs aren't cool. No. Oh, well, I got to change my whole look. I was going to go to a SHOT Show this year with the man bun, the fanny pack, and yoga pants.
I'm okay with the fanny pack. Just don't try to pack my fanny. We'll be okay.
I can't promise that. I cannot promise that. I can't do it.
I was going to say with that thing on top of your head, I there's no guarantees on that one.
Right. All right, so we've kind of gone, and I want to say thanks to everyone that was out there watching, because the conversation we had tonight, like I said, may not be something that you care about, and it may be something that doesn't come up. But the whole idea of the words of liberty, freedom, and rights, like I said, the whole idea of this was to make sure that how you use it depends on how you define those three words. But if you think about it and you start to maybe divide those into three different thought processes, then when you're having that discussion / argument with someone who disagrees with our way of life, you can use it from three different manners. We have the freedoms, we have liberties, and we have rights. Combining all those into one, you're missing out on opportunities to really be able to break down our way of life and our thought processes. Because, like I said, it irks me to hear people say that my freedoms have been infringed upon. Really? To me, no one can take your freedom away, because a freedom is an internal personal thing. You're free as long as you believe you're free. Now, whether or not that is the case in society, but don't say that your freedoms have been taken from you, because in my opinion, that's something that, it's wrong. Let's see here. Mandatory carry says, I'll send you something. That scares me. Am I missing anything here? They're talking about making fun of katanas now. The Suzuki katana instead of the samurai. I get it. Have you guys ever seen The Last Samurai? The movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise? It's a really good movie. Really good. I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan, but that was a pretty good movie. Just the way of life, the way of the war, the mindset of a true warrior is fascinating in that book, and understanding that. And I guess I kind of maybe learn a little bit more about that kind of culture with my wife and all that. She has, on her mother's side, she has lineage of actual samurai in her family, which is pretty awesome. Not like, hey, I think he was a samurai. No, like legit samurai in that lineage of the family. So hearing some things that have been passed on through generations and the way of life, and they truly was about honor and truly about duty, where nothing else. Bushido is the way of life, and that is something that I think we could all learn something from. It is what it is, but yeah. 47 Ronin, that was a pretty good one too. That was a good one. 47 Ronin is a different kind of movie. But yeah, I don't know why I thought of that, but Last Samurai was pretty good. Ghost Wasn't Born Yesterday. What? Okay. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So we're going to be out of here in an hour and a half. It's the first time in a long time. JMA says, I have a good katana I can give. Dude, don't give me a katana. If you're willing to get rid of it, though, give me a call. Tell me what you want for it, and maybe we can make a deal. I would love to have a katana. Like, not like I said, not like a gun show katana, but like a real katana. It'd be awesome. I've actually been looking into some different things to get into. Like I don't have enough time on my hands, but fighting knives and all that. There's a Filipino blade. I don't even really know. It's an art form, and it's
Kali.
Kali. Yeah, there's like several of them, but there's different. Yeah, but there's some really cool Filipino knife techniques and knife studies that are phenomenal that I'm really thinking about kind of getting into. And some of them use longer blades where a katana could be used, but it's not basically for katanas, but longer blades, and they had the fighting knives and all that. I really got into it by watching some of Doug Marcaita's stuff. And Doug Marcaita is a big time Filipino blade expert.
Yep.
In karambits and all that. He's amazing with a karambit and with long. I mean, he's really amazing, but he's on Forged in Fire, and I really love that show. So I've been watching a lot of his stuff. It's not Forged in Fire. But yeah, I'm interested in that. And I've got several karambits and I love them, but I'm really thinking about taking, there's George, maybe do that. And all that. So Stephen Elder, let's pull through the room. This is a funny one. Would you rather be shot with a 9mm or attacked with a katana? Mike, what about you?
Shot
with a 9mm. Gary, what about you?
Blade wounds are horrible.
Shot.
Clover?
Do we get to pick what we're shot or stabbed with?
Well, just a 9mm or attacked with a katana.
Probably shot.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I mean, 9mm, we all know it's inferior anyway. So,
and honestly, that might just bounce off of you. It's
10mm is the best millimeter. Everybody knows that.
Yes.
Whatever. Ricardo says, "Oh, this will be interesting." Ricardo says, "Talking about guns, I am buying a Springfield Saint 16-inch barrel and 308 Win from the U.S." So first of all, I want to sit there, Ricardo, I might have asked you this before. Where are you from? Obviously, he's not from the U.S. What's that?
He's from Brazil. He's already been talking about it.
Yeah, and I thought I saw that, but I wanted to make sure. But he's from Brazil. Is that easy to find? Yeah, the Springfield Saint. I mean, nothing's crazy easy to find. There might be easy to find, but prices are going to be inflated. Where the Springfield Saint you could probably get for $500 or $600 a year and a half ago is probably going to be $1,000 rifle right now, especially in 308. It might be even a little bit more. But the Saint is an AR platform, is a pretty good, solid, budget friendly AR platform. I have not ever shot one in 308. I've only shot one in 223, but they're not bad. I like the Saint. But understand that if it costs you $500 to $600 a year and a half ago, you're probably adding $300 to $500 more to that. So it's going to be anywhere from $800 to $100 to $1,000 at least. You guys have any experience either with the Saint or especially with the Saint in 308? Anyone?
Not in 308. No.
Would you have experience with the Saint? What is your thoughts on the Saint as a platform?
It's okay. I'm not entirely fond of it, but I'm not a big Springfield except for SOCOM or some M1A1, something like that. Yeah. That's just never have been.
Yeah, so the $500 to $600 I'm talking about is in 223. And Sarge says that I guess the 308 was a $1,200 rifle 9 months ago. It's probably $1,500 or more now. So, like I said, with the 308, it's going to be a little bit higher. But yeah, so you're going to be able to add what you could have gotten for it a year ago is not what you're going to get for it now. A lot of them are not available, but there are going to be places that you can get them used. There are going to be places online that you can find these. Okay.
In Brazil? In Brazil?
Well, he's going to buy them from the U.S. He says he's going to buy them from the U.S. and if they want to ship them down to Brazil, I don't know how that all works with Brazil.
That's international arms trafficking. So unless you're an importer, exporter, that ain't happening.
Very well could be. I don't know. And he might come to the U.S. I don't know how it's going to work, but that's all he said. He's going to look for that.
Might run a foul of ITAR on that one.
Huh?
Might run afoul of ITAR on that one.
Yeah, and he ain't no way he's coming to the U.S. unless he has some form of citizenship, not citizenship, but some form of.
He's going to be able to. He's going to have he's going to be a legal immigrant, or he's going to have something to fill the paperwork. He might be American. He might be a U.S. citizen.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. We don't know that.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going by what he's saying out there. Let's see here. Taurus is from Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Among other places at this point.
But yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, any more questions out there? Let me know. If not, we're going to start running it through the room. Now, Sarge says, what I've noticed is that rifles are still coming into the local gun shops, but they're going out just as fast. Yeah, I mean, I was in my local gun shop Friday. I guess it was last Friday. And literally a guy came in and wanted to trade in an AR, and I want to say he had a Glock 17 or 19, and he wanted to get something else. And literally 10, 15 minutes after that transaction was done, like they literally logged it in, put a price tag on it, put it on the shelf, and like literally within a minute of putting it on the shelf, sold. It's craziness. So yeah, it's one of those that JMA says he owns a Saint 5.56, so the 16-inch and a 10-inch and the 308. So JMA, you might be able to tell them what you think about the Saint 308, and that's something that I don't have. So it is what it is. So we're going to run through the room. Gary, excuse me, sorry. I want to give you some time to go through and say, kind of plug your channel, what you got coming up for projects, any shows coming up. Ghost hair is looking glorious. How long is it? Bro, it's crazy. It's not. It comes down to like my lips now, so it's crazy. Like the longest I've ever had, maybe an inch and a half. So yeah, it's nuts. My little alfalfa troll thing, whatever. But yeah, Gary, I want to give you go ahead and plug the channel. Where can people find you, and what do you got coming up?
Well, you can find me on just about all the social media platforms out there. I do 2 live shows a week. Foul Territory, that is Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. And the Early Bird Chat is every Sunday morning. That is at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. And try to get some pre-recorded content out there for everybody to enjoy. Just finished releasing a series on the 2020 range day. A little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff of me and my friends shooting at various booths there at Range Day. So give you an idea how we film each other and help each other out. So anyway, thanks for having me. And give him a bird, and your hair looks cute, Ghost. I like it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like I said, I don't care. For me, it's fun. It says what is weird. I find myself playing with my hair a lot, and it's just weird because I never had this long. But I'll tell you this: I don't care what color it is. I don't care what it looks like. As long as I have it, I'm okay. So that's just me. And like I said, for me, it's just been more fun of just seeing how long I can grow without getting to the point where, like, okay, I got to cut this off. So
do it while you can
reach that point. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Steven out there says, oh, this is interesting because I don't have any experience with it, but this would be a good one because I would be like the one that probably the only one around that doesn't have any experience at all with it. But I'd love to hear a show about 3D printing. I can get Rob on because Rob's been printing. I mean, every time I look over on Instagram or whatever, he's got 3 or 4 being printed a day. So I don't know what he's up, but he's gone nuts with the 3D printing.
Rogue does a lot.
Who's that? Rogue?
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have any experience with 3D printing and all that?
It's coming. I've talked about very, very seriously about the last week. And actually I had another conversation with my wife today. I would say within the next couple of months, I'm just weighing out honestly which one to get at this point is what it amounts to.
Okay, so you and I have had this discussion offline and all that, and I'm not going to talk about. I don't want the high end stuff, and I don't want the cheap stuff. What can someone look at just from your? I'm sure you're doing your due diligence and your research,
right?
For something that is going to be able to print not only 3D printed like polymer frames for handguns, but maybe even lowers or different accessories for different rifles. That size. About what are people looking for to get into something that's going to be quality, but maybe not the high end?
Like so, Ender, ENDER, is I'm more than likely I will go Ender. Talk to a lot of people. That seems to be the way to go, especially for a first one. But it's very versatile and a very good printer, and everybody I know that has them, they also own other ones, but they're like, I always use my Ender and I'll never give it up, right?
Right.
So it's just what version, right? And that's where you get how big the platform is, how tall it is, all of these other things. So without getting into a whole bunch of other specifics, and just to put a price, a number on it price wise, it's looking like 3 to maybe 400, but more so on the 3 side of things. You can get something really decent.
Yeah, because Will out there says 600 is a good mid-level, and that. But if you can get into a 3D printer for $300 or $400, let's say $350, that may not be the best, but for what you're going to use it for, that's awesome. I had no idea they could get them for that cheap. Honestly,
so
I thought $1,000 or whatever.
So I've got a friend that literally has a room in his house that is wall-to-wall 3D printers. He's got a dozen if he's got one.
Is that for his job or something?
No, he's just totally plays with stuff. Well, let me take this back. He does Christmas light shows, right? And so he does, but he doesn't just do Christmas. You know how they broadcast on a radio station or a radio channel, and they sequence their lights to the music and all that crazy stuff. He's huge into that, right? And so he doesn't just do Christmas. He does Halloween and Easter and 4th of July and all kinds of holidays, right? His lights literally almost stay up year round, pretty much. But he's always making fixtures and different things. You know what I'm saying? He plays around and makes
it's not firearm stuff. He's using
he hasn't made one single firearm part.
Accessory
anyway, like I said, all of the printers he's got, and according to him, he's got them from anywhere from $150 all the way up to like $1,500. And his go-to, the one he says he uses the most, blah 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 blah, is again about a $300 Ender machine.
Okay, so, awesome. I had no idea. I just assumed that you're doing 3D printing, and maybe that's because that's what it was a few years ago. But I was thinking like $1,000 minimum for a 3D printer. So, and then
come down quick on that stuff.
Yeah. So, how much would it cost to get some of the material? Let's say to build a lower or to build a.
So, Yeah.
whatever.
So
Something like that.
I talked to him, and this was just asking him, because we were looking at. I was over there one day, and we was online looking at some of the plans for the Glock lower,
Sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that would be about $5 worth of filament.
Wow.
Now it takes hours and hours and hours to print.
Well, but once again, you can set that. You can hit print.
Well,
go to bed, and when you wake up the next morning, assuming that everything works well, it can be done.
The kitchen to giddy up or whatever, yeah. But worst case, you've lost $5. You scrap it and start over again, I guess. But then you got refinement. A lot of people don't understand that. But
Sure,
then you've got some sanding that has to do, potentially holes that have to be drilled, and some carbon with X-Acto knives and some other things that potentially have to be done. It doesn't come out perfect. Yeah.
Now, Ricardo's got an interesting question, and I'm not going to say 3D printed. We'll just say a 3D printed / polymer 80. I'm going to change this question. A 3D printed gun / polymer 80 or a high point. I've never shot that I know of. I probably have, but I didn't know that it was maybe a polymer 80 or a 3D lower on a handgun or something, or AR. But to my knowledge, I haven't. But I'm not so sure that I wouldn't choose like a polymer 80 or something, especially for a handgun. Maybe not an AR. I wouldn't want a polymer lower for an AR. I don't think. But I would probably, for a handgun, I would probably, honestly, if you could build a Glock 17 for just basically a slide and barrel.
So first of all,
3D or a polymer 80 versus a high point. That's just me.
So first of all, polymer 80 is totally different than 3D printed.
I understand that, but I'm just saying I'm saying both of those are I'd probably take either one of those over a high point.
Yeah, you're talking about a totally different composition of the polymer there or whatever. But even with high grade, I mean, if you go high grade filament for, let's say, a Glock lower, the problem is you're going to spend. Have you priced Glock barrels and slides and other things? You know what I mean? So money wise, you're going to have. I envision you're easily going to have $500, $600 probably into your 3D printed quote unquote Glock, whereas the high points are
do that because you want to do it cheaper.
Do what now?
So you're not going to do that because you want to do it cheaper. You're going to do that.
No.
Right. So, that's a hard question to answer what he's got between the two, because it's literally apples and oranges, man. Do you want to have something that looks cool that you're like, you've got 3-4 times the amount you've got in the high point, but it looks better and you made it yourself? Or do you want something out of the
$150 gun that's going to work?
Yeah.
Wheel up there says maybe 45 hours for a Glock lower. There you go. I didn't know how long it would take.
Definitely longer than a day.
It's definitely not going to be one of those things that you just put down, like you said, and wake up the next morning and it's done. It's going to take a couple days. I got you. I had no idea. Old ball stuff says friends don't let friends wear man buns. I have no friends, so there you go. It is what it is. I'm a friendless wonder. Mike, we're going to get to you real quick and say, plug your channel. Where can people find you? What kind of projects and shows you have coming down the line? I know you got some cool stuff you want to talk about later about writing some articles, but go ahead and plug yourself. That sounds really bad. Don't plug yourself.
Not on a live stream anyway. I'm Mike from Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. You can find me here on YouTube at Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. Same on Full 30 and Gunstreamer. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. Pretty much everywhere. I also write for Gear Report, gear-report.com. And I do a show every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube called The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. We're talking about Second Amendment related news, politics, current events. So come check that out. You can catch that in podcast when I'm not being lazy and I actually download it and, put it out. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, I know that you are you on Spotify and all of those stuff? I mean, have you gotten to that point yet? Or okay, yeah. So if you are out there and you like listening to the podcast side, because a lot of people listen to this on podcasts, I probably get just as many listens, whatever, downloads, whatever on podcasts than I do on the live show, which is great. There are a lot of people that listen to podcasts. If you're out there, go check out. Is it under the right of the people, or do they need to search for budget guns and gear, or what do you do?
Over there in podcast land, it's the right of the people.
There you go. There you go. So go check that out as well. Gary, do you have foul territory? Anything? Do you have those in podcast form? They strictly on the YouTube side.
I'm looking to do that. I haven't done it yet, but it's something I'm definitely looking into. I'd have to cut down the length a little bit, probably.
I don't know. Mine usually run an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's one of those things where I thought that I was going to struggle with the podcast side of having an hour and a half to 2 hour. I thought it needed to be under that 45 minutes to an hour thing. My numbers have gotten larger as I went longer. And some of the comments that I've been getting and all that have been saying, hey, awesome. Finally, I have a 2 hour show I can listen to, and it might be broken up over 3 or 4 days. They might listen to it every morning. So in a week of commute time, they're able to listen to one show. By the time the next week comes out, a new one's ready to go. So I never thought about it that way. So what I'm saying is don't be discouraged about putting an hour and a half or 2 hour podcast out there. Because actually my numbers started getting bigger on the podcast side when I went from 45 minutes to an hour and a half or whatever. Go figure. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it is what it is. So there are going to be people out there that want that 15 quick hit. And I know that Clover was doing some of those 15 minutes on the FUD Live stuff. And I love those because there are a lot of people that want that 15-minute quick hit podcast. But there is a lot of people that drive trucks and their living is salesmen. They're on the road for multi-hour drives that will listen to that hour and a half to 2 hour podcast as well. So don't pigeonhole yourself. So there you go. Because I think people would enjoy that. Anyways, Clover, what about you? You have anything coming up? I know you don't do much, but so I'm asking, will you ever produce anything that people can actually, watch or listen to?
Probably not.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it is.
I released one today. Nobody's going to watch it.
You watched it. I even commented on it.
Oh yeah, you did. You're the one. Okay, I was wondering.
I'm the one. Yes.
I was wondering who that person was that gave me that view. I wonder, but no, I released the Rock Island Armory AL-22 differences and similarities to the Smith & Wesson 617. Spoiler alert: one of the differences is price. But
I would imagine so. And I like what you were saying is I think was yours a 5 or a 6 inch in the 617, but you said that they do have a newer model that is a 4 inch as well. So that would be,
yeah, they do make it. Rock Island does not make that AL-22. It's brand new. They don't make it in a 6 inch, but yeah, right. The 617 is available in a 4 or a 6. Yeah.
Before we move on, Ricardo out there says, guys, this live is very informative and fun. I don't know about that, but thank you. But it needs to sleep. We'll work tomorrow. Thanks for this awesome chat and come to Brazil to fish golden dorados. Man, if I would love to go to Brazil. So if I ever do, I'll definitely look you up and we'll hook up and do that. That sounds fun.
In Brazil, right?
Huh?
Surely to God, they've got nude beaches in Brazil, right?
I think that the whole country is like a nude beach,
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine they would. There's some beautiful women down there in Brazil. So it is what it is. But thanks for coming, Ricardo. Welcome to the dark side. Love to have you back anytime. What were we just talking about? We were talking about what? Oh, so I want to ask you this. So just for people out there, kind of give them an idea, the Smith & Wesson, the 617 and a 4 inch in comparison to the Rock Island, they look very similar to me.
A very similar frame, man. It's almost a K frame. Seriously.
Okay. Go check that video out because I'm not a revolver guy, so I know that I'm eventually going to have to be a revolver, or I'm not even a revolver. I'm going to have to get some revolvers. So I've been watching a lot of revolver stuff and all of that, and this one was a good one And I do like 22. I really kind of bit the bullet in the last year of really enjoying the 22 LR round. So that's interesting as well. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't want to give away the farm, obviously, on it, but where there are similarities. I mean, you're talking about a Czech Republic import, basically, which that's pretty cool for those that are unaware. And I don't talk about this in the video because I've talked about it in other things. This revolver is not the M series 38 special stuff that was made in the Philippines, and those have got a really bad rap. There's a lot of issues. I think Blackout Outdoors, our buddy RL, had an issue with his. So this one, I'm hearing from people that go, oh, they make a crappy revolver, this and that, and they're talking about the M series revolver, not these. These are made in the Czech Republic. Totally different factory, totally different place. But what I was going to say is that there are some differences that you certainly expect from Smith & Wesson. Some pretty stark differences that you
the materials used are probably going to be a lot better quality, you would think.
Yeah, well, they can go watch it. We could talk off air, but
yeah. Nighthawk Medic, thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. Veteran right there.
Funny, he's pimping out there.
He is pimping. The $50 super chat. Once again, super chats are going to send care packages to our troops overseas. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. And it's really cool as I get emails from, and I use Operation Gratitude a lot to do all this stuff. And I get emails from them. And I don't know if it's pictures from the people that got mine necessarily, but about once a week I get emails from them saying, thank you for your support, blah, blah, blah. And they'll always send pictures of different people opening up their care packages. And it really, like I said, it's a really cool thing to know that, to be able to do that. So thanks to everyone out there. And like I say, everyone knows this, YouTube's going to take 40% of that super chat, but I always cover that to make up. So they're going to get the full $50 going to there. Whatever YouTube takes out, I will match that 40% that they take out from my pocket, so that they're going to get that full money going directly over Operation Gratitude. So thank you so much, Nighthawk. Mike, you said you got a couple things you want to bring up. Go for it, brother.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I'm working a couple projects I'm working on. I got a pistol review coming out and then a follow-up to it. A friend of mine, ever since I started the channel, has been, hey, you want to review this? You want to review this? You want to review this? And it's been like, well, no, not really. But yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. Kel-Tec PF9. Yeah, I'm not super fond of it, but watch the video. It should be coming out in the next couple days. But then I decided that, here's why I'm not super fond of it, because I compare it to the Ruger EC9S, which in the same price range, if not a little bit cheaper, but is, in my opinion, just a little bit better of a gun. So I've got that coming out, and then I'm working on a make your own gear kind of thing, how to make some target stands. It's pretty inexpensive. So
you and Clover need to get together to make some inexpensive target stands to hold the redneck ballistic apparatus. That could be a great collab video. Just saying.
Target stand. I've got a Patreon funded.
I'm trying to think of a collaboration video between the two. There's got to be something y'all can.
Yeah, we could come up with something, I'm sure.
Yeah. A&A out there says $8 super chat. Thank you so much. I'm not wealthy, but for the troops, hey man, anything helps. Anything helps. The great thing, Patriot, good God, he always does this shit.
It's a good thing good thing for the troops. We went long, I suppose, right?
I guess so. This is true. And they say in the average, they have different ones that they'll send. Some of them have, and I don't get to choose which kind of care package, what they do with their money is up to them. But they have, smaller ones up to bigger, elaborate ones. But they say they have deals with manufacturers and suppliers and all that, but they say that about $15 is what the average care package costs to put together for them. And so, like I said, $8 may not sound like much, but that's half a care package right there, bro. That's awesome. And that's great. So like I said, Patriot, man, love you, bro. That's Semper Fi. It's great stuff. So thank you to everyone. As far as me, we've got really some great ideas. Like I was texting back and forth with Midnight Range over today and about some ideas. And that dude, like I said, he's got some screws loose. There's no doubt about that. But they're loose in a good way. And I'll tell you one thing about Travis is he is mentally one of the most creative people I've ever been around or talked to. I haven't been around him physically, but you give that guy a topic, and it might take him 10 or 15 minutes to get going. But once he starts, that flow happens, you're going to get about 20 different ideas in a very quick amount of time. He's extremely creative, much more creative than I am. And he's one of those that I kind of lean on and say, I've got this idea. What do you think? And then all of a sudden, boom. Well, today he sends me this text and he says, hey, I've got an awesome idea. And I was like, yeah, that actually sounds cool. And then like even it was just going. He's just the flow. It's like this Magna Carta of texts of different things that were coming in. It was great. He said, I'm mental, that's for sure. But it's an awesome mental. If you ever got, I mean, like I said, I lean on him a lot for creativity. Anyway, so I've got an idea on a project, and he's kind of validated it, and he's giving me some great ideas. It's coming down the line. Should be getting a Taurus any day now. There's going to be a review coming up in the next week or so on the Foxtrot 9 FM9, the little 91 PCC that we had issues with at one time with doing a little double tap and basically turned into a binary trigger without doing anything with their trigger assembly. And I've corrected that, and I'll have a video explaining what we did to correct that, and maybe down the line what you can do, and what Foxtrot Mike has told me and what I've done and all of that. So that's coming out. Taurus coming out. I do believe that I will be working with FMK shortly, so that'll be interesting. I don't know if I'm going to get the Marine one, or I'm just going to get the base, which is fine. If I get the Marine one, that's badass. But I'm kind of hoping I just get the normal one, because I would really love to compare a $259 to $300 gun, maybe against that Taurus. That'd be a really good comparison for that same price range and all that. So, A&A says, when my nephew was in Afghanistan, I made about 30 pounds before drawing of jerky. Yeah, jerky, man. Used to get jerky a lot, and jerky's awesome to get in a care package. But I'm telling you what, if you're interested out there, just for an idea, some of you guys might be interested in doing care packages, or at least being able to take items to like your recruiter or your local National Guard depot or whatever, and they can get those put together. If you're looking for items, obviously the beef jerky and all that, but make sure that you understand where you're sending it to, because those countries, like, you don't want to send booze. Okay. If you're going overseas, can't do that. Beef jerky's good. Gummy bears. Gummy bears are something that if you're a military person that spends some time anywhere, gummy bears are very critical. They're very easy to pack into bags or pouches. They don't smell. And a lot of people don't realize when you're trying to eat out in somewhere that you can't be detected or whatever, you don't want to eat anything that can be smelled, because you can smell that shit from a long way. Gummy bears don't smell. And it's also, you can, like I said, they don't go bad for a long time. Gummy bears are great. So gummy bears, beef jerky, stuff like that. But honestly, it's like socks, toiletries, like toothpaste, toothbrushes, stuff like that. Socks are huge. When you get socks over there, especially nice like wool or some thick socks and all that, guys love that, and gals as well, but stuff like that. If you have any questions on what are maybe some decent items, email me, text me, call me, whatever, and I'll point you some directions of maybe some items to put together for a care package. I'd be more than happy to do that as well. Mandatory carry says gummy bears sitting in vodka. I cannot confirm nor deny that I have tried that, but if I had, it might be pretty good. Just saying. There you go. So as far as me, thanks again for watching. Very proud and happy to be part of the Self-Defense Radio Network. If you're out there and you have a podcast, it's pro gun, pro freedom, and you're interested in the self-defense, get with me and I can kind of point you in a direction and get a hold of the people that you need to contact about going through that process. It's going to be about 2 weeks. They have to submit my show, my platforms, my artwork, and all that to the board, and then the board yay or nays it, and it takes a week or two to get that done. But yeah, if you're interested in that, get a hold of me and we'll do that. If you're out there and you're looking for other pro gun, pro freedom podcasts, check out selfdefenseradio.net. And you'll be able to find a lot of really cool people and cool podcasts and shows. And most of them are on a weekly basis. They even give you the times typically of when they're released or when they're live and all that. You know, like I said, Gun Freedom Radio, the Polite Society, Armed Lutheran, Eye on the Target, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Locked and Little Latinos, Get Off My Lawn on there. A lot of really cool podcasts and shows are on this network. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm really happy to be part of it. Thank you to them for I guess approving me and all of that good stuff. So I'm really, really, really happy about that. If you're out there, go check out CloverTac, go check out Gizzard Gary, go check out Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. Their channels are awesome. There are a lot of great content creators that have been out in the chat. Go check out Sandhill Shooter here in about 5 minutes. I'll be off before that starts. Sandhill Shooters has the Get Off My Lawn podcast, great podcast. Midnight Range Team on Sunday nights has The Closer. I'm trying to see here. Wield and Well Arm has a really cool channel. A&A's got some stuff they're putting out there. Patriot in the Dark. Go check out Patriot in the Dark. And I'm not going to give it away. Patriot in the Dark's channel is amazing because it comes from a perspective that you don't typically see in our community. And I'm not going to give that away as to what that is, but you'll be able to figure it out. It's amazing. He makes great stuff. Go check out Patriot in the Dark. Let's see here. Am I missing? I know there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there. Sarge, the C4 Defense was out there. Go check him out. But there's a lot of great content creators. And I'll put this way. We need more than ever. We do need more pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment creators out on YouTube. Clover's been working diligently for the last 6 months with YouTube, trying to get some stuff done. But it's all going to be for nothing if we don't have a lot of people turning cameras on. We need to make sure that they know that we are a community that needs to be reckoned with. We're here. We're not going with. So if you ever thought about turning the camera on and creating your own content, don't worry about the quality of it is. And if you want to know what kind of stuff to shoot, I'll put it to you this way. Shoot a video, the content, the theme, whatever it is, the concept of it, shoot a video that you would want to watch. That's how you start out. And then you can go from there. But the more cameras that we can get out on YouTube and other platforms that are pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment, they're going to have to deal with us and reckon that we need to listen to them because they are growing as a niche and as a community. So if you have any questions on what to get started on that, check out CloverTac's Thursday night chat at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. It's the Nerd Chat. He talks a lot about behind the scenes with tech and software and all that. If you're looking to get involved with that, go check that out. We have turned this into a 2-hour podcast when I was trying to get out of here half an hour ago. I like to talk. I get that. I apologize, but we still got some people out there watching. But anyways, go check out these guys, support them. If you're watching live, thank you to everyone who's watching live. Thank you to everyone who's super chatted. That is phenomenal. Thank you so much to everyone. Thanks to all my patrons who make this. I can do this, and you guys support. It really means the world to me, not just the monetary side of it, but the support that you get from these guys all the time. Go check out everyone out here on the panel. Go check out people that are out there. If you're listening in podcasts or watching this replay, the conversation is not to stop. Go ahead and utilize the comment section. If you have any comments or questions, put them in there. I will answer those. I will get back to you. If it's a question for me, I will pass those on to whoever the question is for. But thank you very much for watching. We will see you next Tuesday. Semper Fi.